I debated with myself for a long time about whether I should make this video or not. Um, few things that I considered. Um, would it actually do anything? Would it help anyone? Is it self-serving? Yes, to all those maybe if somebody actually, you know, is interested. Um, I have a really hard time with talking about mental disorder because it's something that's kind of hovered over my head my entire life. It's something that it affected, it has affected everything in my life, every aspect of my childhood, adult life, teenage years. They played with the diagnosis for a while. ADHD, um, I have a bad memory. It's something that's happened recently. It's ADHD, Aspergers, um, crazy, bipolar. Um, but I think a diagnosis is really just labeling a bunch of different things about somebody's personality. It's a general term. I think the best way to really understand what somebody is isn't using the words bipolar or Asperger's, but describe what it is. See, I've always been in a very difficult place when it comes to defining what it is because I grew up in a very mentally, physically abusive, a socially abusive house. My dad beat us. Um, he he was a sociopath and all those all everything that implies, not being able to hold down a job, um, emotionally manipulative, um, very socially isolating. Uh, my not all of my siblings were consensually conceived, so um, they were married for a really long time until I was 18 years old, and that built up a lot of shit, especially when it really just spiraled down from there. And when it starts out with something like that, it's going to. It can only go down from there. Um, I was the second, actually, um, technically the third if you consider unborn children a child. I do. I don't understand why you wouldn't. I don't care. I really don't care if you don't. This isn't about that. But then I make a big deal out of it, right? But yeah, can only spiral down from there. I was the second child, and I was by far out of the three of us, because I then had a little brother after that. Of the three of us, I was the most volatile. They said I had failure to thrive when I was little. I wouldn't eat, and then I would cry for 2 hours every single night. And they said I had failure to thrive. But I guess, I made it out. But growing up, I couldn't, you couldn't put me in social situations. I was very explosive. I was very socially, I was very antisocial. The difference between antisocial and social anxiety is antisocial is you hate people. You actively try to get away from being in a social situation. Social anxiety is you dread being around people. It's you're scared of it. It's not hate, it's fear. Well, for a really long time I was very close to being antisocial. I had no authority, no respect for authority at all. But that was something also that could have been a result of my dad, because why would you listen to somebody who, when he 500-pound guy gets in your face and yells at you, who the hell do you think you are? And your answer is nobody. And over and over and over and over and over again, somebody who beats your mother in front of you yells at her. And when you get around somebody like that, it's very hard to respect authority, especially when he used our ignorance, our childhood ignorance, to instill a disrespect for my mom, for her authority in us. It's very, very difficult to then translate a respect for authority into teachers and psychologists and people, just adults in the regular world. And I didn't. My going into school, my whole thing was that you are not my mom. You're not my parent. You're not my dad. You're no one. You have no right to say anything to me. I don't want to be here. I'm not going to be here, so I would leave. They couldn't get me to stay, so they ended up moving us all to a place where there was a school that could deal with my behavioral issues. Because I would scratch kids, I would bite teachers, they used to have to drag me out of class to hold me down on the floor. I would go ballistic on the other people in the room because they couldn't control me. And as a side note, if you did know me back then, I've never actually encountered somebody that I knew from my past, really. If you knew me back then and I hurt you, if I damaged you, because I damaged a lot of kids who didn't deserve it. If I did that to you, I am so sorry. I can't apologize on behalf of all the kids who have attacked other kids, but those who I knew, those who I hurt, I can't tell you how sorry I am. But it was a very hard place to be in. It was very difficult because you can't just say that I was going crazy because I was crazy. It was also, my dad couldn't keep a job and we moved around like all over the place. So I was already emotionally unstable. I was physically unstable. I was socially unstable. Like, how do you describe it? You don't have a house. We were homeless most of the time. My parents were in a loose, open relationship, so they would bring in other couples to, we lived with a couple really abusive, really not okay couples. One of which wouldn't let us into the house, or a couple of which wouldn't actually let us into their house because we weren't their kids. And my mom and dad weren't around a whole lot. So we ended up being either living in one of the little broken down trailers on their property, or just when we were living in this one apartment, I would sit just outside the door and cry because they wouldn't let me inside. And we were like 6, 7 years old, maybe. Maybe I wasn't even I think I was in kindergarten or something, but I don't remember. But I didn't mean to go into a whole history lesson. But what I was trying to talk about was Aspergers. But I guess you can't really isolate one thing from the other, right? So to just to move it into the present, I've never really had friends. I've never really had friends. I've had maybe one or two when I was in elementary school, but I've never been able to socialize with people. I've never been able to connect. And I can't, when it comes to like relationship things, I've had plenty of experience with men, but most of those were when I was younger and they were pedophiles. So there was that. And then when I finally got old enough to actually be interested in guys, they just, I guess I don't know, I have a mean resting bitch face or something like that. Or maybe crazy has a what's it called? An aura, maybe. And just, I'm not, when it comes to relationships, my summary of it is, oh, hey, that guy's really cute. It's never going to happen. Even if he's interested in me, I can't connect with them on a social level. I can't connect with guys who I think are interesting or cute or I actually found myself watching movies where couples were blatantly interested in each other, but I couldn't. I was like, wait, are they just like that? Is that the kind of personality they have? Or is it that, are they actually showing interest in each other? I can't connect on a mental level with emotional um, shit, with relationships, with love and stuff, because maybe it was just nothing. It wasn't something I was exposed to growing up. So I still have no idea what it is. I can't flirt. I don't flirt with people and people don't flirt. Or if they do flirt with me, I have no idea. I have no clue. I had a guy literally lick my face because he was so desperate. And I only found out later that he was flirting with me. And I didn't know. I had no idea. I guess the reason I'm telling you all this is because it really does not matter what you look like. We we all have shit going on. And I'm functioning. I don't have a social life at all. Never have, but you know what? I don't want one, really. That sounds like I'm making excuses, or I don't know what that sounds like, but I don't want a social life. I've seen what it does to people, and it's hard for me to um, see the value in it. I do love people. I do. I love people. I work at an old folks home, and I think they're awesome. And I can when I can interact with somebody without it being without you kind of bringing up to me beforehand, I'm fine. I can interact just fine. But don't put me in a room with a bunch of people. Don't tell me that we're gonna go somewhere before we get there because I won't want to go. Even if it's good. When I was a kid, even if we were going to like Wet and Wild and stuff like that, I wouldn't want to go if they told me because just the dread of interacting with other people was so horrible that I would throw a fit and it would just make everything worse for everyone. I don't know. You might be interested. I don't know. But I wanted to put this out there because maybe there are other people who understand and know where I'm coming from and just wanted somebody to say it because sometimes hearing that you're not alone in you're not you may be alone in here, but you're not alone out here. There are other people who go through the same things you do. Maybe not the same circumstances, but that us crazy people's gotta, stick together, you know? And maybe we'll never meet. Probably won't ever meet, but you're not alone. So, me. Okay, well, 15 minutes. Cool.